Hi there and welcome to the latest edition of the England Golf Podcast. My name's Ian McFarlane and for this month's pod we thought we'd do things a little bit different and focus on just one subject. And what a subject, the 150th Open Championship at St Andrews. Does it get any better than that in golf? Now, two of the England Golf men's squad, Sam Bairstow and Barclay Brown, are certainly looking forward to the Open, and that's because they're playing in it. Having come through the final qualifiers at St Anne's Old and Hollandwell, the two amateurs from Yorkshire will be flying the flag for England at the home of golf, and I caught up with both of them to get their thoughts and test their Open Championship knowledge. Of course, no Open could take place without an army of greenkeepers, and many staff from around England will be heading to Fife to play their part in the staging of the championship. Jim Croxton, the chief executive of BIGGA, tells us the role his members will perform on the biggest stage in golf. And as you sit back and watch events unfold on TV or online, have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes to bring the greatest championship to life for millions, maybe billions around the world? Well, the R&A's Director of Corporate Communications, Mike Woodcock, joins me to explain the logistics of bringing the championship to life for a global audience of fans. But first, let's speak to the players. Sam is a veteran of Opens, having played last year at Royal St George's. And it was at that venue during the recent European Amateur Team Championship where I caught up with both him and Barclay. Now Barclay's a rookie and ready for the biggest week of his life, and I'm not in the least bit jealous. Barclay, Sam, thanks for joining me. I feel humbled to be in the presence of two competitors in the 150th Open Championship this year. Sam, this is a bit of old hat for you. You played last year. Looking forward to the second year in succession.
Yeah, definitely. It's obviously nice to be back at St George's where I played my first. But I think the one at the 150th will be special at St Andrews, especially with however many people there is expected. So yeah, it'll be good.
Now we're sitting here at Royal St George's, which is an open venue. Barclay, you're going to be up at St Andrews for the Open Championship as well. What does it mean to you to take part in the greatest championship in the world?
Yeah, very excited. As Sam said, I think it should be a special 150th at St Andrews. Not that anyone wouldn't be special, but yeah, really looking forward to it.
When I say the word St Andrews to you, what does it mean? What's the first thing that springs to your mind?
It's the home of golf.
Fair enough. Sam, to you?
Probably Cromer's, the fish and chip shop.
Spoken like a true Yorkshireman. I like that, Sam. Listen, can we just rewind a little bit to the qualifying a few weeks ago now? In terms of you, Barclay, Hollandwell, you led the field, didn't you?
Certainly did, yeah.
What was that like?
It was good, yeah. I was fortunate enough to chip in on the third, to be 3 under through 3, and then I just sort of clung on for dear life all day long, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was nice. I was at the top of the leaderboard there. I went off early, which was nice. It was a little calmer in the morning, and then played nicely and managed to just stay there all day long. So yeah, fortunately there was never too much pressure from that point on. Just kept it solid.
And Sam, St Anne's Old has been good to you again. Last year it was a course record to qualify. This year a bit steadier.
Yeah, it was windy. It was windy though.
2 rounds in the 60s though, so well played.
Yeah.
Did you have a good feeling getting into it? Because obviously you'd lost in the final of the amateur, so that was one avenue to the Open that had gone the week before. But did you manage to carry that form into the qualifying?
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of losing out on the amateurs, probably missing out on the Open was the one that probably hurt the most. At St Andrews, it's sort of so close, and obviously it wasn't. So to do it at St Anne's was good. I played with Matty Jordan, who's obviously an ex-England player, and I think we sort of helped each other along really all day. We were both on 3 under in the morning, and then he came out hot in the afternoon. So I sort of just tried to beat him really, and I thought if I did that, then I'd get through. So yeah.
Not to dwell on the amateur, because I know it's obviously something that still hurts, but how much character did you have to show to then bounce back from that to then go on and do what you did at St Anne's?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was obviously a week later or so. The first few days were quite tough, but after that, I just thought, right, just go and work hard again and try and qualify at St Anne's again, which luckily I did.
Just to both of you, how hectic has it been now planning for the Open Championship? Because you don't have much time, Barclay, to arrange accommodation, to sort out all the things that go along with playing in a major championship. How hectic has the last week been?
It's been reasonably hectic. Kind of tried to get as much sorted as possible in the first couple of days afterwards. Really knew I was going to be heading down here, and kind of wanted to have a clear mind coming down to focus on this, playing for England this week. So yeah, I managed to get the accommodation sorted, and dish some tickets out to friends and family who I wanted to have there with me. And yeah, fortunately managed to get it all done reasonably quickly, so I can focus on this week and then on to next one.
I take it you've discovered a few more friends than you realised you had in the last week or so. People coming out of the woodwork.
There's not too many of the new friends are coming along. But yeah, no comment.
Is one of your old friends somebody you're going to meet up with at the Open in terms of Matt Fitzpatrick, a certain US Open champion? I know you've been name dropping in the last week or so. I saw when you qualified at Hollandwell, you mentioned the US Open champion. Is he somebody you're going to hook up with at St Andrews?
Yeah, Matt texted me after I finished about playing a practice round or playing some practice rounds. So yeah, no, I definitely got back to him and said thanks very much, and yeah, that'd be great. So hopefully we'll get to do that. Yeah.
Is he somebody that you draw inspiration from because he's a member at the same club as you in Yorkshire? Is it somebody you know and somebody you look up to in some respects?
Yeah, I mean, watching him over the past 6 or 7 years just get better and better and better has been great to see. I think everyone at our club knows how hard he works, and how much he deserves it. So yeah, it's definitely inspiring to see, and also good to kind of understand how much you need to put into it to get that kind of level of success back out.
In terms of your appearance this year, Sam, you obviously can draw on what you went through at Royal St George's last year. So what was the big thing you took away from playing in the Open Championship for the first time that'll help you when you turn up at St Andrews?
I think the nerves really, and just the experience of it. I think that was probably my first time really playing in front of large crowds. Even if there wasn't a lot of people there, sometimes you sort of knew that there was always people watching. I think obviously the amateur, there was apparently 2,000 people there on the final, just walking around. So I think sort of playing that, and then a few people at final queue, I think that helps. So I think the nerves will be a lot better this year, even though there will be a hosel staring at me on the first. So, but yeah, I think it's just that really. I think treating it more as a golf tournament rather than an experience this year.
When we spoke before the Open Championship last year, you were just talking about the first tee shot and how nervous you would be, and just praying you got it off the tee. Talk us through the first hole.
I had to shout 4, so that was good. But I mean,
you hold a good putt in the end, didn't you?
Yeah, hold a good putt for bogey, which was nice. Got the momentum starting well. So no, I think hopefully I don't have to shout 4 at St Andrews, otherwise I'm going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. To be fair, it's a big fairway. If you've got to shout 4, you are in trouble there.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Barclay, what's been the reaction? You're obviously at Stanford University during term time. He's the brains of this duo, is that right, Sam?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Sam's underrated in terms of his intelligence.
Okay.
I won't say that.
I'll buy that.
Golf IQ is through the roof.
Okay. What's the reaction been like, even from college friends and stuff like that? Because you obviously played Walker Cup. You're playing for a grade A college in America, but even they must be impressed with what you've achieved.
Yeah, I think some of them were impressed. Some of them were pleased. I think fortunately, most of my friends, although they were probably astounded, managed to keep that fairly low key, and at least made me feel as if they expected me to do it, which was very kind of them. But yeah, I think they were they're very excited for me. Unfortunately, not many of them will be able to come over and watch, which is a shame. But yeah, it'd be nice to have some support from over there as well.
Sam, you've attended the University of Life rather than the University of Stanford, so that'll stand you in good stead.
You.
That's all right, no problem.
You're getting roasted.
That's a bit cruel. It's only because I know him. And I like him as well. In terms of your expectations for next week, Sam, I mean, was it 75, 72 last year to just miss the cut? What's your thoughts on this year at St Andrews? Because I know it's a course you like.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's a lot easier than St George's. So hopefully there'll be a few more birdie chances.
Last words there.
Well,
bold. It has got a good record though at St Andrews, which he's about to
on
tell
the
us
old
about.
course, not the Jubilee.
Well, the
I'll
Open's
be digging.
not...
I'll be digging. I'll be digging that up. I'll be digging that up on the range. So that's fine.
Breaking news: they don't play the Jubilee in the Open.
That's a
Sam,
shame.
you're okay.
What a shame. Yeah, I was not really any expectations really. I'm obviously been playing quite nice all year, so hopefully just keep that form up and not let the nerves get the better of me. Just stick to my routine and stuff and see what happens. I suppose really. Yeah.
Barclay, your thoughts on that? You played Walker Cup, obviously, bit of nerves, bit of tension when you played at Seminole. So, what's your thoughts going into an Open Championship and what you can achieve?
I've heard that St Andrews shares something with Seminole, which not a lot of great courses nowadays do, which is that you can spray it a little bit. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. If it's true, that might come back to bite me, but I'm hoping that there'll be some slight relief there. So that, as we were talking about some nerves earlier, that might be something that helps ease a few nerves. Though I was looking forward to finally playing a tour event where I've watched on TV for years. So they spray it offline and it's all nicely trodden down by the crowds. But I think all the crowds are out of bounds at St Andrews, so unfortunately we won't have that. But I'm really looking forward to playing St Andrews. I've not played it. I played once when I was 9 or 10 years old, I think. So I'm not as experienced as Samuel to my right here. But hopefully it'll bring good things for me.
You've played Lynx Trophy many times, so you were saying about a good record. Is it a course that suits your eye? Is it one that... Because it can be quite awkward when you play it for first.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know where you're going on some of the holes.
No. I think once you know the lines off the tees and sort of pick your line, I think into the greens it's a great golf course. Sort of you got to be really precise with your iron play and sort of hit it in the right spots really to give yourself decent looks at birdie. So hopefully it suits me on the week really, and just see what happens I suppose really.
Playing an Open Championship is special, but the 150th Open Championship, all the razzmatazz that'll go with that, playing at St Andrews, chance to walk across the bridge in 18, huge galleries. I think they're talking about 250,000 spectators for the week. I hope I'm not making you nervous in any way, Barclay, but...
I heard it was 290,000. So.
There you go. Yeah, I wasn't counting one of the practice days there. So, does that put the fear of death in you? Does it make you excited? Does it get the butterflies going? What's your thoughts?
Well, at the moment it's exciting because I've not had anywhere within 249,000 of that number of people watching, so I don't really know what it'll be like.
So what's the biggest crowd you've played in front of? What would it have been?
I think there were the Walker Cup was during fairly extreme COVID times, so there was about I've had some great fans out for the scratch matches. I'd like to shout out Hallamshire Golf Club on that note. I think there was about 1,000 people allowed at the Walker Cup. Not many of them were following scrubs like me. But at the Open, they might not have a choice. Hopefully there's like a good group behind me or something, so I get a load of fans. But at the moment I'm excited. I'm sure I'll probably be very nervous when I get there. But I think I've got better over the last few years at dealing with that kind of thing. So hopefully I'll be able to get some kind of grip on it next week.
And will we see the trademark hat been worn at St Andrews? Is this going to be worn?
Wow, maybe we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. He's just going to leave it there, Sam, is he?
Looks like it.
Yeah. Okay. Right, listen, before we go to the Open Championship next week, I thought you guys are steeped in the history of the game. I'm sure you are, Sam. You're looking at me blankly there, but I thought I'd give you a bit of an open quiz just to test you ahead of appearing at St Andrews. So,
how many questions are there? 50.
Well, no, there's only 3 each because I thought that might be taxing enough.
I've got the good ones, haven't I?
Please give us some rock solid ones.
It's completely random.
Who the last 3 Open winners were at St Andrews?
It's completely random. And Barclay, as you're the novice for the Open Championship, we'll let you go first.
Okay.
Should have some mastermind music in the background here, but anyway, right.
Now I'm nervous.
Well, this is going to test your knowledge. I know you're doing economics at Stanford, but this is a bit of a history quiz for you. So, first question. When was the first Open Championship held? Just take your time over this. Okay.
Let's. I think I should be able to get it within 10. Really, We're in 2022. It's the 150th.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, see, that's why he goes to
But it's not
Stanford,
that
Sam.
simple, is it?
But it's
Because,
not.
there's some breaks, a couple of world wars.
Yeah,
Um,
I had 20 on that.
so we're in... No, it can't be that much. Let's go back to 1867.
Close, but no cigar.
What was it?
1860.
That's a great effort.
Good effort, though. Yeah, fair enough.
Should have taken a few more off. I thought they'd have gone for it still in a few of the war years, but obviously not.
There you go. So, Sam, your first question to take the lead here. Nervous moment for everybody.
That was hard.
That first Open Championship in 1860, where was it held?
Oh, I actually think I know this. Or do I?
You've probably played there, maybe? I don't know.
Is it Prestwick? Is it not?
It's Barclay. The look of horror in your face. It's Prestwick. He takes the lead.
Have I got it?
You've got it right. Well done. Yeah, shake of hands between the two open competitors
fair play.
there. Right, Barclay, you're trailing here into the second question. Nick Faldo was the last Englishman to win an Open. What year did he do this at St Andrews?
At St Andrews.
This pause is good for podcast, by the way. We'll need to edit all this.
At St Andrews. Well,
Bit
he
of
wasn't-
logic applies.
he wasn't 05, he wasn't 2000. So, let's say 1995.
95. What do you think, Sam? Is he right?
I'd be really, really upset if it was 1990, but I think it's 95.
Tiger was on 5, wasn't he?
Yeah, 1995. I think it was John Daly. It was 1990, Barclay. He's got another one. He's got another one wrong.
I keep trying to work him out, but I should just fire answers in there.
2000.
2000. No, I'm not telling you. That might crop up later. You almost tricked me there. He's been reading my notes, Barclay.
Oh, yeah, both.
Right, Sam.
Oh, yeah,
second
yes.
question.
I think he had both.
This is for the win. So I hope
Yes.
you don't get it.
Yeah,
Um,
that would ruin it, really.
You played in the Open Championship last year at Royal St George's. Who can forget your?
What did I
debut?
shoot? Is that what it is?
No, no.
Ask him who came
What was Colin Morikawa's winning score?
No, I'm sorry, but we've just looked at the board outside on the way in.
I knew it anyway.
Come on then.
265, 15 under.
It's outrageous. He had no idea what it was. We've just looked at it on the board on the way in.
Let's go
It
for
is,
the
it
whitewash
is
anyway.
2-0.
Let's go for the whitewash anyway.
Barclay, this is to save a bit of face here.
Yeah, all right.
Final question.
He's been gifted that one.
This is
You had no idea.
in football terms. This is shooty in. Okay.
Yeah.
Who won the Open last time it was held at St Andrews?
Oh, well, that's a bit better. Where was that earlier on, Ian?
Sorry.
So easy.
I knew you would have won by this point, Sam. So that's why I just threw this one in.
'Twas Zach Johnson.
He's avoided the duck. Well done, Barclay. Okay.
Yeah.
This is
Can I have this one as well to try and get it to 2-2?
no. Because Sam's going for the clean sweep here. Okay. 2 of Tiger's Open wins have come at St Andrews.
Yeah.
What years were they?
2005 and
Oh,
2000.
He's stringing it out there, Barclay.
What else could it have been? Why are you pulling that face for? Louis Oosthuizen.
Oh, yeah.
He told us John Daly was 95. We didn't have any options
Yeah,
left.
so basically I gave it to you. Sam, well done. You've won 3-0. Sorry, 3-1. I was doing
If
you
I
out
could
a point
lose
there.
3-1 to Sam Bairstow every time I went out, I'd take that.
Guys, listen, great chatting to you. Very well done in getting to the Open Championship, the 150th Open Championship. I'm sure
Thank you.
I'm sure you do yourself and your families and England Golf proud when you tee it up. And good luck hitting that first fairway, Sam.
Thanks, Ian. Try my best.
Barclay, all the best.
Thank you.
Now, another important aspect of the 150th Open Championship will be the condition of the course. The St Andrews is a traditional fast-running links with 112 bunkers, and that requires a small army of staff and volunteers to keep the old course in tip-top shape. And that's where some of England's greenkeepers will come into play. And who knows, perhaps one of the green staff from your own club will be making a difference at St Andrews and playing their part in the championship. Now, BIGGA, that's the British and International Golf Greenkeepers Association, once again put out a call to members to sign up, volunteer and help at the Open. And I'm joined now by BIGGA Chief Executive Jim Croxton to tell us the part his members will play in this historic championship. Jim, thank you very much for joining me this morning. What can you tell us about BIGGA's involvement in the 150th Open? It's a hugely exciting time for everyone, and none more so than your members who will be at St Andrews.
Yeah, absolutely. And genuinely, this 150th Open does feel like something that extra bit special. I've been coming to Opens now for 30 years. I think I've only missed a couple in that time. And yet I've got the sort of butterflies. I'm really looking forward to seeing what I think is going to be a special week on, I guess it's fair to say, the world's most special golf course. Naturally, I would agree with you that, say, probably from my perspective, outside of those key championship players, the golf course is the most important thing and is the star of the show. I think the most important thing to say, first of all, is that St Andrews has an outstanding greenkeeping team led by Sandy Reid, who's an Open expert, along with Gordon McKee, who's the head greenkeeper on the old course itself. And they've got a very strong team that manages their 7 golf courses. And so the majority of the work that's taken place over the last 12 months and over the next week or so will be done by that team expertly. And I think importantly this year, incredibly sustainably, more so than I think ever before. The Open is a very sustainable golf tournament, but it's such a priority for all sides. Every year, BIGGA gets asked by the RNA to support the championship in a formal way with a team of volunteers. So we have one greenkeeper walking with every match throughout the championship, which is pretty unique. I don't think there's another major championship where that takes place. Their kind of day job, as you would call it, is to look after the bunkers that they go in. Not just the ones that balls finish in. Actually, sometimes you'll find players walk through bunkers to get lines on greens, or caddies are in there, and they also just kind of keep an eye on bunkers, generally speaking. But they're also there. There's a team of, I think we'll have 54 greenkeepers in town as volunteers who are there as additional backup to the St Andrews team. So in the event of an emergency, let's hope it's smooth and that they're not needed. But we've been needed over the years for all manner of additional activity when either the weather turns or conditions turn against us.
I think it was October last year, Jim, when the call went out to your members to see who wanted to sign up for this volunteer support team, as they're called. Just give us a taste. How many people are interested in this? Because, greenkeepers work extremely hard on their own courses, and this is something of a busman's holiday, but did you have a lot of interest from your members to sign up for this, a special Open at a special venue?
We did indeed. In fact, at one point I thought we were going to get 150 volunteers for the 150th Open, and we fell just a few short. And I think I should have paid a few just to make that number up to exactly 150. But that means we've disappointed far more than we've made happy. And we were sort of nearly 3 times oversubscribed for the places. It's open to all 4 members of BIGGA. We've got a few coming from overseas, a largest number probably from England, quite a few, as you'd expect, from Scotland. And it's an important event for 2 or 3 different reasons. For some of the younger greenkeepers, it's a fantastic networking event. They'll meet not just their peers across a volunteer team, but they'll engage with the St Andrews team. And the championship is a mecca for people from all walks of life. So there are greenkeepers from all walks of life at the championship itself. There are guys that are there because they're absolutely golf junkies and they just want to be part of what I consider to be the world's greatest golf tournament. And then there are guys who've got kind of volunteering in their soul, and it's part of them to go and support other greenkeepers in other areas. And it's always fascinating chatting to the guys through the week and finding out what their motivations are.
I think the first involvement of greenkeepers coming from other courses to help out an Open Championship, ironically, was 84 at St Andrews when Seve famously holed that putt on 18 and did the fist pumps to win the Open. And BIGGA since 1987 have taken it forward. Something I touched on earlier, it's not just raking bunkers and cutting grass and being there to support Sandy Reid and his team. I seem to remember various Opens over the year, despite the fact they're meant to be played in British summertime, have challenging weather conditions. Think back to St Andrews in 2015 when the pictures of the first fairway and 18th fairway were ridiculous. It looked like the boating pond at Southport rather than than the most famous stretch of grass in world golf. So I guess your members are called upon to do all manner of things during the week of an Open Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. From the mundane, helping with divoting, helping, as I say, with raking bunkers. Very often at a championship, our volunteers assist the local team, particularly in bunker preparation in the mornings, because the plan is to ensure that every golfer who goes in a bunker gets the same experience. And frankly, in a normal tournament, that's not the case. The people out first get a much better experience than the people out last. The caddies at tour level are excellent, but nonetheless, when a bunker has been used a number of times, and there are a few bunkers at St Andrews that get used a lot, the caddies can be a little less diligent perhaps than perhaps the greenkeepers who take professional pride in it. Increasingly, things like practice facilities, keeping practice facilities during the day, including the bunker facilities, supporting the team on any particular initiative, ecology initiatives during the week, anything that Sandy and Gordon might want some additional support with, we've got the team. However, they have got, I'm thinking, 50 or 60 of their own team around, so they'll be pretty well served as well.
Something you touched on earlier as well, Jim, is sustainability, which is a huge thing now for all of us in the golf industry, but especially your members, because they're at the vanguard of delivering this in terms of the ecology of the golf course. Can you just explain a little bit about what that means at an Open Championship? Because obviously there's 290,000 people tramping over a golf course, and there's a lot of energy and electricity and various things being used to power an Open Championship. So how does sustainability play a part in an event this big?
It's a really good question, and most links courses are amongst the more natural pieces of land that we play our sport on. They're certainly different to the sort of stadium style courses that we might see, for example, a Ryder Cup take place on. So they're a piece of land that probably needs to be protected more prior to the tournament than in other areas. There are a lot of areas at St Andrews in particular where there are wildlife areas or rare flowers, and those areas will be roped off and it'll be quite subtle, and the spectator won't notice. They just find they can't get into certain areas because they're being protected. There's then a long-term plan around power use, around man-hour use, around water use, to minimise and optimise the use of anything that is a valuable resource. As an example, this year, for the first time, I think in many years, the greens are being cut with the triple mowers, the ride-on mowers. The greens at St Andrews are vast. And it was taking an extraordinary number of people and an extraordinary number of mowers to do them in the hand mowing. The technology now in the ride-on mowers is exceptional, and the cut will be achieved with far less fuel, far less man hours, and just as good as if it had been done a different way. And so the RNA in particular, along with St Andrews team and ourselves, are always looking at ways to try and make those marginal gains.
Just over the years, Jim, you've mentioned you've been at a good number of Open Championships. In your capacity with BIGGA, but just as a golf fan, what does the Open Championship mean to you as an individual? And are there any particular highlights of Opens down the years, either from a greenkeeping perspective or purely as a fan that still stick in the memory?
Too many to mention on what is probably a reasonably short podcast. A weird coincidence, the first Open I ever attended was Royal Birkdale back in, I think, 91 or 89. It was one of those two. And I witnessed Mark Calcavecchio walking down the 18th fairway, taking his clubs out of his golf bag and giving them to the greenkeeper who'd walked with him. He said something along the lines of, you've had to work far too hard today, because he'd had a poor round. And he gave his clubs to that greenkeeper. And who would have known that sort of 20 years on, I'd end up working with the association and met the individual concerned. And he still tells the story to this day. My hero growing up was Fred Couples, and I was once told off for being far too close to him on the 6th hole at Royal Birkdale. And I was just trying to get close to my hero, and I was rather crestfallen by that. But actually, my first Open, if you like, inside the ropes, although I wasn't inside personally, but my first Open was Royal St George's in 2011 with BIGGA. And the team at that time at Royal St George's was pretty small, and our volunteer team got really closely involved with the home team. And actually we had volunteer members doing things like literally cutting the 18th green on the day of the final round. And to actually feel, for the first time, having attended probably the best part of 20 Opens by then, that my organisation played a part in the success and in Darren Clark's eventual win was a really thrilling moment for me as a bit of a golf geek.
Absolutely, Jim. Well, there's a lot of unsung heroes that are attached to an Open Championship, and none more so than the BIGGA members who will be doing their job at St Andrews for this 150th Open. We wish all the volunteers well. We wish Sandy and his green staff well at St Andrews, and we hope you enjoy the event as well, Jim.
Thank you very much, Ian. Looking forward to it.
Now, if you're one of the lucky fans heading to St Andrews for the Open, then I'm sure you're in for a treat. If, like me, you're going to be glued to the telly or scrolling through the Open app, then you'll be interested to hear from a man who's at the epicentre of media activity for the next week. Mike Woodcock is the R&A's Director of Corporate Communications and in charge of a massive media operation that goes on behind the scenes at the game's greatest championship. Earlier, Mike found time in his hectic schedule to give me an insight into the logistics of bringing the Open Championship to the watching world via broadcast, print and online. Mike, thanks for joining us here on the England Golf Podcast just to look ahead to the 150th Open Championship. For those people who have never been to an Open, or perhaps they have been but just haven't taken any note of the kind of scale of the media side of things, can you give us a little insight into the size and scale of the media operation at an Open Championship?
Well, yes, of course, Ian, and thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about the Open and to talk about just some of the things that go into making it all happen. The media centre is one of those elements that's often sort of behind the scenes and that people perhaps don't see or even realise is there. But it's certainly always quite a big structure at the Open, and that's definitely the case this year at St Andrews for the 150th Open. We're located this year on the Bruce Embankment Car Park, which is next to the R&A World Golf Museum. So it's just across the street from the first tee and just behind the Royal and Ancient Clubhouse. So it is a little bit tucked away, but there's a large overhead walkway that's been installed this year to enable the media and the players and so on to go back and forward from the media centre over the road. So it's quite an undertaking. And we're just at the moment putting the final touches to the media centre and making sure everything's working, Wi-Fi and the technology and everything is installed before we get underway on Sunday. But the media centre it's a large structure. We will normally accommodate in the region of 600 media in the building, and that will include photographers, radio journalists, and print and online journalists principally. There is a separate international broadcast centre which looks after the TV media, but a lot of the TV personnel will have access to the media centre and make use of some of the facilities and the information and so on that we provide. So it's definitely a kind of busy hub. There's an awful lot going on really at any time of day, and it's quite a buzz in there. I think you know particularly when something's happening or a leader's posting a great score and so on. You really feel like you're part of something quite special there. We have at the front of the auditorium, we have a huge LED screen that can provide a leaderboard principally, but also can switch to screens showing the action from different feeds, and that basically stretches along the wall of one of the front of the auditorium. So it's a huge screen, and I think that whole kind of technology just adds to the atmosphere. It was only a few years ago that we still had a sort of manually updated leaderboard, but we changed to LED, and it just gives us so much more flexibility and there's so much more information and statistics that we can show at any one time. So yeah, it's a great place to be involved in. Busy place, a lot going on, 600 people working out of there. So there's never a dull moment, I would say.
Mike, I attended my first Open as a journalist in 1996 at Lytham, and it was a small marquee in the members' car park at Royal Lytham at that point. People climbing ladders to fix little numbers to the big scoreboard that was at the front, and things have changed dramatically. Even in your time at the R&A over the last decade or so, how much has that media operation grown to the size that it is now, where there are thousands of people involved in the media side of things, and they all flock to the Open Championship to cover the event? Just how much has that mushroomed in the last decade or so?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's changed enormously, and I've been involved. This is actually my 10th year with the R&A, which is quite scary in itself. But prior to that, in my previous role at St Andrews Links, I was often involved in the Open Media Centre one way or another, and it's definitely grown and changed and expanded, I think, and that really reflects the Open itself. I think, because the Open is played every year throughout the UK, I think people often just don't quite notice just how much it's growing. And certainly in recent years, really when you think about venues like Royal Birkdale, Royal Portrush, even Royal St George's last year, despite the challenges of COVID, and now St Andrews, it's really it's growing almost in front of our eyes, and that's great. I mean, it comes with so many benefits and upsides, but it does mean that the infrastructure has to grow to accommodate it, and it has to become more technologically adept to be able to service the requirements of the global media. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, the little things like those, the old scoreboard manual operators, to switching to a kind of LED screen that's flashing up all, huge array of statistics, even to installing things like virtual media centers so that people working off site as well as on site can have access to really all of the information, transcripts from interviews and press conferences, statistics, regular bulletins as to what's happening on the course, different content provided from really all aspects of the championship. So it's almost at times a bewildering array of functions and services that are provided, but it is about just ensuring that the journalists are as equipped and as well equipped as possible to help tell the story of the Open. And that's really fundamentally what my team and I are there to do, is to tell the story of the Open and to help the media tell the story of the Open, and reflect just how fantastic it is to their audiences. And that's what we try to do every year. So it definitely comes with a buzz. And as you say, from the 2000s, early 2000s to now, I think back to maybe 2005 St Andrews to this year, there's been some huge changes, and it's great. It keeps the energy alive, and it keeps the whole thing evolving.
So give us a flavour of what a typical day, if there is such a thing, a typical day at an Open Championship would involve for you and the media team that are working in that media centre. Just all the different things that go on, from interviews to greenside interviews, etc., that just make up a day at the Open Championship.
Yeah, it's a great question, Ian, because there is so many different things going on. I think on the practice days, we're heavily involved in player press conferences and preview press conferences. So we'll be bringing in some of the leading players to do those, and that's always an important part of the process, to make sure that we're looking after the players, but giving the media the opportunity to ask all the questions and cover all the subjects that they want to do. So that tends to be the focus on those days, and it does. That gives it, that brings its own kind of pace to it, I would say, and makes everything quite exciting and quite frenetic at times. We also do our own R&A press conference, usually on the Wednesday morning, which is a chance for the journalists to meet with our chief executive, Martin Slumbers, and again cover any topics that they want to about the championship and what the R&A is doing. So I have to say that there is a sort of a degree of relief that comes sort of Wednesday afternoon when we can get past all of that and look forward to the first tee time and the Thursday morning and play getting underway. And I think, to be honest, I think a lot of the journalists feel that too, because they have space in the newspapers and on their websites to fill in the early part of the week. But once play gets underway, then all eyes turn to the championship and the golf. Which is, the way it should be, and I think what everyone's there to do. So definitely the pace changes a little bit on the Thursday, and in some ways, I wouldn't say it slows down, but it becomes a more kind of even pace with less spikes in activity, and you can get on with dealing with, reacting to what's happening on the course and who's taking the lead. We'll obviously bring in leaders for press conferences. And I think the other element that people may not realise that's very important is that we also look after a separate zone closer to the 18th green, which is called the mix zone, and then the primary area. And the primary area is to look after our rights holder broadcasters, so principally NBC Golf Channel, TV Asahi from Japan, and then Sky Sports. And we provide interviews there to the players that they're interested in speaking to as they come off. And then next to it, we have the mix zone, which is an area where secondary broadcasters and media, print media and so on, can ask quick questions and get quick quotes from players. So again, there's quite a big operation that goes into managing that and keeping a flow of players coming through. And all of those conversations are recorded, transcribed within a few minutes, and then provided by the virtual media centre, so that the journalists really have access to everything that's going on from their desks. So it takes quite a lot to deliver all of that and man it, and we're very fortunate to have a talented team, not only of our permanent staff, but also of regular temporary staff who come and work with us to help us deal with all that each year. And we also have some people that join us from the DP World Tour media team, and they're very experienced as well. And so that whole combination works really well, and we've got a great team to deliver it. But yeah, each day can change, and if there are challenges with the weather, as we know can often happen in a British summer and during the Open, then that can result in different things we have to react to. If there's any rules, situations, any controversies, then of course we're involved in dealing with that too. So yeah, I wouldn't say any 2 days are the same, but there is a sort of kind of pattern of the week where it's pretty frantic on the practice days, and then it gets into a slightly more even pace on the championship days. And yeah, and then of course it builds up to a crescendo on the Sunday, and when we're getting close to identifying the champion golfer. And really once that happens, once we get close to what we call the 72nd hole situation, and then the prize giving ceremony, then all bets are off. It goes past in a blur. I'd like to be able to describe it more accurately than that, but it's absolutely frantic as we try to get everything done that needs to be done and service all the requirements of the champion and the media and getting access to him. But it's great. I mean, there's an enormous buzz. It's hugely enjoyable. We're all very privileged and fortunate to do the jobs that we do. And sometimes you do have to pinch yourself just at the situations you find yourself in, and try to remember it so it doesn't all go past in a complete blur.
I've sat in that media centre many times, Mike, and you're at the top table conducting the winner's interview with the champion golfer of the year. Is that kind of pinch yourself moment that you look back on and think that, you know, you're in the middle of all this and you're the first person that gets the chance to speak and congratulate the champion golfer of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just one of these things that's just a huge privilege, and yeah, is something that I'm sure my grandchildren will get bored of hearing about when they come along. But the part of my job is to take the champion round. So when the prize giving ceremony finishes, then I'll accompany him on his sort of media round as he greets the fans and does some photography and TV interviews and so on. And then I take him through to the media centre to do his press conference there. And then there's always some other TV interviews to get done, and then take him to the clubhouse to meet the committee and so on. So that, again, that's a very important part of the process, obviously looking after the champion, making sure that he's not completely overawed or overwhelmed by the level of media interest. And yeah, it's you're absolutely right. It's a huge buzz, and I think back to so many situations where it's just you look back and think, wow, did that really just happen? And I think probably the most striking example recently was at Royal Portrush with Shane Lowry, and but I took him out of there was a walkway under the grandstand that we had to take to get back to the media centre, and I took him up the steps and over this overhead bridge. And obviously a lot of the Irish fans had realised that was the way the champion was going to go, and they gathered underneath the bridge, and there must have been a few thousand of them. And the noise when we walked up on that bridge, I think Big Shane nearly jumped out of his skin. We couldn't believe it, so we stopped, and he held up the claret jug, and of course there's cameras frantically trying to capture the moment, and it was just incredible to have the fans below us, and the noise they were making was just off the chart. It was incredible. It was a wonderful atmosphere, and I don't think I'll ever forget that. But you're right, Ian. There's so many moments, and I think, you know, when you sit down at the press conference, you have the claret jug sitting there on the desk and the champion there, and he's trying to kind of come to terms with what's just happened and explain it to the world's media. It's it's quite an experience to be there. And I think also, you know, alongside that, the sort of triumph goes alongside sometimes the despair. And you know, one of my colleagues will usually bring in, and I've sometimes done it as well, bring in the runner-up and sit with them, the person who's come very close to winning. And that's also a fascinating experience in different ways. And I think you realise just quite you get a small taste of what it's like for these golfers to be under the media glare and spotlight all of the time, and just how they have to handle, a moment when they probably just want to be in a darkened room after they've come so close to winning a major championship. But they by and large handle it with incredible dignity and integrity, and I think that's that's very admirable. It's a great experience, and I often say to people I've got quite a famous elbow, because you often see my elbow creeping into pictures of the champion sitting there at the press conference. But it's great fun, and I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to doing it this year, and doing it at St Andrews with the champion of the 150th Open is going to be incredibly special.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be, Mike, and we all look forward to either being there in person or watching on TV or looking at the Open app, which is a new innovation in recent years that people keep up to date with the Open Championship on, and I'm sure it'll provoke a great debate and discussion and chat about who's going to do what, and we hope it'll produce a winner worthy of the 150th Open Championship. I'm sure it will do. To you and your team, Mike, good luck for next week. It's a hectic week. You don't sleep much, I guess, in the build-up and through it all, but we all look forward to reading about it and watching it, and that's all thanks to the services of you and your team up there at St Andrews. Just a Constantina Rocca putt away from the 18th green where you're based, it's a great championship and one we look forward to. So thanks for your time, Mike. Thanks for giving us some insight, and good luck for this Open Championship.
Oh, thank you, Ian, and thank you again for having me.
Well, thanks for taking the time to listen to this latest England Golf podcast, and I hope it's whetted your appetite for the 150th Open Championship. When you sit back in your favourite chair and think of St Andrews, do you have a vision of Jack Nicklaus throwing his putter in the air with joy, winning on the 18th green? Perhaps it's Seve in true Matador fashion, pumping his fist after winning in 1984. Or maybe Faldo securing a runaway win in 1990. Or Tiger in 2000 on the way to holding all 4 majors at the same time. Whatever your recollections of St Andrews Opens in the past, I'm sure the 2022 edition will add many more to the memory bank. Enjoy the week, and to Sam and Barclay, these are the days of your lives. Have a ball, guys. Remember, for the latest on the amateur and club scene in England, you can follow England Golf by searching for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. You can check out our website too, that's www.englandgolf.org. My thanks to Jenna Lee Portis for producing this Open special podcast. Until the next time, hope you get out in the fairways soon. Bye for now.